Beneath the craggy peaks of Yellowstone, we come to pay tribute to one of America's most glorious legacies, the belief that wild places have their own special value in a democracy that looks not just to the present and the past, but into the unknown future. 1 year ago in this valley, President Clinton convened a gathering of regional conservation leaders in the Yellowstone Dialogue. That discussion led directly to the events of today. In the Yellowstone Dialogues, we said the American people strongly support 3 key conservation initiatives: protect and preserve our national parks, protect the nation's clean water, and keep the public land in public hands. Buoyed by the Yellowstone Dialogue and encouraged by the President's staff at the Council on Environmental Quality, last fall we approached top officials at Crown Butte, Himlo Gold, and Noranda to seek a similar dialogue with them. They responded positively. The agreement signed today will set in motion a process that will forever protect Yellowstone from the threat of gold mining in this area. It broadens the public's ability to set limits on industrial activities that might harm the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. It is a major victory for all of us and for future generations. President Clinton, thank you for making this possible. In this agreement, the conservation community worked to ensure that mining in the New World Mining District will never again threaten Yellowstone. It's in the agreement. We worked to ensure these minerals and lands would be returned to the American people. It's in the agreement. We needed provisions to clean up the mess left over from 100 years of prior mining. It's in the agreement. And we insisted the public have an ability to comment and to examine every aspect of this deal. It's in the agreement. It's a good agreement. It's a fair agreement. But we should not forget that at the same year that Yellowstone was created, the 1872 mining law was passed. It's this bad law, badly outdated, that now needs to be changed. Mr. President and members of Congress, it's time to reform the mining law so the public has the same rights as mining companies on our public lands. These are difficult issues. They are complex issues. I'd like to turn now to thank the people who made this agreement possible. The first and foremost is the Beartooth Alliance, and I'd like to ask that their members stand. We can't call you all by name, but you know who you are. And Jim and Heidi, you got more time for your son now. And Joan, we need some more pies baked. The other groups involved, and I'd like to ask members of those groups to stand as I read off the names of the groups: the Northwest Wyoming Resource Council, the Sierra Club, the Gallatin Wildlife Association, the Wyoming Wildlife Association, the Montana Wildlife Federation, the Wyoming Outdoor Council. They join with the Beartooth Alliance and GYC in this work, and they are party to the agreement today. While not a party to the agreement, the Northern Plains Resource Council is a key ally. I'd like to also take special note of American Rivers. Our country's only national group dedicated to the protection of our rivers. They have been a valiant ally, and we look to them for leadership as we move to deal with Congress on this agreement. Rebecca Water and Tom Cassidy, would you please stand? Hey, hey. The National Parks Conservation Association and the Mineral Policy Center provided us with a great deal of assistance, and we look forward to working with them again in the future. The Sierra Club Legal Defense Fund has been our legal counsel on this and many other issues, and they have provided superb help. We would not be here today without their work. Doug Honnell and Susan Daggett, would you please stand? I wish to thank the current and former staff and board of the Greater Yellowstone Coalition for their continuing efforts on behalf of this ecosystem. And Ed Lewis and Louisa Wilcox, you can do your book now. Gretchen, Long Glickman, and Tim Swanson, thank you for your leadership as chairs. And Bob, Iki, and Brian Keel, we can play a lot of poker now. This is grassroots democracy at its best. There is nothing better. I also want to take special note of the leadership shown by the company that's involved in this mine. I wish to thank the leaders of Noranda and Battle Mountain Gold Company, of Hemlo Gold and Crown Butte Resources for their leadership on this issue. In particular, Ian Beyer and Joe Bayless led the negotiations to a successful conclusion. At every step, they have kept their word and sought creative solutions. Former U.S. Senator Birch Bayh, the legal counsel in Washington, helped us all to find new ways to successfully communicate with each other. Carl Ellers, the head of Battle Mountain Gold, made sure that the merger of Battle Mountain and Hemlo moved forward and that these negotiations were not stopped by that process. I also want to thank a number of federal officials. I want to thank Vice President Gore for his firm commitment to this process. At key times, he intervened. He could not be here today, but I tell you, he was with us the whole way. At key times, he intervened to ensure that these negotiations could move forward. And I can tell you personally that we felt his presence at every turn when some of us were ready to bolt from the table. 4 dedicated public servants deserve our special thanks, and they are here today. Katie McGinney, Chair of the Council on Environmental Quality, exemplifies the idea that public servants have courage and take risk and have a role in our government. Thank you, Katie. Ray Clark, Associate Director of CEQ, was a staff person who put the pieces together. His positive view of humanity is an inspiration to us all. John Schmidt, Associate Attorney General of the Justice Department, and Jim Pitkin, Special Ambassador at Interior Department, successfully led the negotiation team. Would you please stand? Montana's U.S. Senator Max Baucus played a key role throughout these talks. He has constantly prodded us to come together with a creative solution rather than to continue to toss rocks at each other. Congressman Pat Williams has helped us to focus upon the financial responsibilities growing out of a trade of federal assets for the mine. Congressman Bill Richardson has authored and sponsored a bill that would prohibit mining on public lands within the district. Senator Dale Bumpers has introduced similar legislation. And recently, Senator Craig Thomas came out against the mine and has offered his assistance. We look forward to working with all of them in the future as we define the needs for future legislation. And could Congressman Williams and Richardson please stand? Protecting Yellowstone is not a partisan issue, and I know we will have broad support from both parties in the days ahead. Mr. President, I wish to also thank 2 other people. I want to thank you for naming Mike Finley Superintendent of Yellowstone Park. In his short time, he's demonstrated the kind of leadership that Yellowstone deserves as a world's first national park. We ask you and our friend Bruce Babbitt keep Mr. Finley around for a long time. And we have with us today Chief Jack Ward Thomas, the Chief of the Forest Service. He has a tough job. We owe him a debt of thanks and gratitude. It's not easy to be a public servant these days, and the Forest Service carries the brunt of that in our region. We're proud to stand with them, and we will work with them in the future. And finally, Mr. President, I want to thank you for your leadership in defending our national parks and protecting the environment, for your view that communities and families matter in the creation of national policy, and for your willingness to challenge all of us to rethink how we manage the environment and the few remaining truly wild places of the world. We are truly grateful to you, sir. And now, I would like to introduce to you the man who made these negotiations possible from the company's perspective, Ian Beyer. He's a native of Nova Scotia, a very proud Canadian citizen. He is now the president of Battle Mountain Gold and the CEO of Crown Butte Resources. Please welcome a man who is our real friend and great patriot, Ian Beyer.
Gotta get up here a little higher. Thank you, Mike. President Clinton, Mrs. Clinton, distinguished guests. I would like to start today by, first of all, thanking Mr. President and the members of your administration and the conservation community who have worked with us and negotiated in good faith to bring us here today. We have worked together with Katie McGinty, Council of Environmental Quality, John Schmid, Jim Pipkin, Ray Clark, through intense negotiations. We appreciate their diligence and dedication in our joint efforts to reach a cooperative agreement that considers the interests of all the parties. In particular, I'd like to extend a special thank you to Mike Clark of the Greater Yellowstone Coalition, who has been an invaluable asset in our proceedings. Without Mike's strong leadership, this agreement could not have been reached. Finally, I would also like to thank Joe Bayless, President of Crown Butte. Joe has put his heart and soul into this project over the past couple of years. In the past few months, he's done a 180-degree turnaround and put his heart and soul into negotiating this agreement. As you know, Crown Butte has entered into a property exchange agreement with our government and conservation community represented by the Greater Yellowstone Coalition. This agreement is a product of constructive dialogue and a desire by all parties to do the right thing. It was conceived in our belief that the New World Project would not threaten the Yellowstone National Park or the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem. I share the foundations of the New World Project proposal only to let you know that our intentions have been and always will be to pursue the business of mining with a strong commitment to integrity, accountability, and environmental sensitivity. We believe that passion has been the guide for the activities that have surrounded the New World Project. But we'd like to let you know that we are passionate about protecting the environment. We have searched for a way to let you know that we do think the Greater Yellowstone region is one of the most magnificent areas on Earth. And all you have to do is look around here today. Our original intent was to show our commitment to the region through our reclamation efforts, economic opportunity, good neighboring, and most importantly, good mining. Our intent today is to prove that our commitment still stands through our property exchange agreement with the government and the Greater Yellowstone Coalition. More than anything, it is our sincere hope, and I believe I speak for not only for Crown Butte, but for responsible miners everywhere, when I say that there is a need for the conservation community and the mining community to find a common ground. Let us search for ways to work together in the future. We have made, thank you. We have made a shared vision and most importantly, a decision that is feasible for all concerned, and one that will allow us to honor our commitment to reclamation in the New World District. Thank you very much. Thank you. Just want to take one moment to introduce Sue Glidden, who was raised on a ranch east of here. Many of you know her, in the Clarks Fork Valley. As a young girl, Sue spent many summers fishing in the Beartooth with her grandmother. In 1979, she and her husband Ralph purchased the Cook City General Store, where for many years they have enjoyed meeting and helping visitors from all across this country. Sue has been an active member of the Beartooth Alliance, a local citizens group, since its formation. Sue feels that while we have not always agreed on issues within the New World Project, we have reached an agreement that is a successful compromise to a very difficult, complicated process. Sue?
Thank you very much. Thanks, Ian, and welcome to President Clinton and Mrs. Clinton and all honored guests here. You are all honored. I first met President Clinton at a town hall meeting in Billings in June 1995. I asked him a question about how he would protect Yellowstone National Park from the proposed New World mine. He was extremely knowledgeable and conversant about the proposal and assured me that he was very concerned and would be following the issue closely. I met again with President Clinton in August 1995 when he held a dialogue with 14 conservationists in Yellowstone Park. He remembered that I had asked him the question about the New World mine. We spent 2 hours discussing concerns regarding potential impacts to Yellowstone, and he once again demonstrated how much he knows and cares about these issues. This gathering today, with its successful resolution of a difficult environmental problem, clearly demonstrates President Clinton's dedication to Yellowstone National Park and leadership on conservation issues. Thank you, President Clinton. It is my honor to introduce the President of the United States, Bill Clinton.
This is not the hardest speech I ever had to give. What a happy day. Let me thank you, Sue Glidden, for all the work you've done. Just before she came up here, one of the folks sitting back here with us said, "Well, now what are you going to do?" And she said, "Now I have my life back." I'm sure she'll find something to do with it. Highly productive. Thank you very much, Mike Clark, for all the great work you have done. Thank you, Mike Finley, and Marv Jensen, and all the people at Yellowstone who do such a magnificent job preserving our nation's great treasure. I'd like to thank John Schmidt and Jim Pipkin. Ian Bayer, thank you very much for what you said and for what you've done. I can't say enough to thank the other people in the administration, Katie McGinney, who has been wonderful about this. And you mentioned the Vice President. I thank you very much. We have lunch once a week, and at least every other lunch, I asked him or he reported to me on whether this was ever going to get done or not. So in the middle of Bosnia and the budget and everything, we were, for 1 year, I know more about this some days than I wish I had known. Thank you, Jack Ward Thomas. I'd like to thank some other people who are here and a couple who aren't. I thank you, Senator Birchby, for your role in this. I want to thank my good friends, Congressman Pat Williams and Congressman Bill Richardson, for working on this. Bill Richardson's been making peace all around the world the last 2 years, but he found time to do this as well. I want to thank Senator and Mrs. Rockefeller, who came up with me. Jay and Sharon Rockefeller are your neighbors. As you know, they live near the Grand Tetons and are very concerned about it. And I want to thank former Wyoming Governor Mike Sullivan and his wife Jane Sullivan, who came up with me, and they've been longtime friends of Hillary's and mine. And I want to thank all of you who were in that meeting with Hillary and with me a year ago. We learned a lot. It was a great occasion for us, and we've relived it several times. I also want to say a special word of recognition for the two families that are behind me. We just hauled them up here. And they're laughing. Are they agreeing with me? They are the Franklin family from Sioux Falls and the Pamperin family from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I asked them to come here. I asked them to stand up here. I asked them to come. I asked them to come to make this point. This fight was not simply waged by those of you who live here for your families and your community and your future. You waged this fight for all the people of the United States and indeed the people of the world who love and believe in the preservation of our natural resources, who come and participate. And I thought it was important that somebody be reminded somehow by their presence here that there are millions and millions and millions of people who will directly benefit from the decision we announced today. And you're seeing some of them. We thank you. Let me say, for all kinds of reasons, I'm also glad to see that John Denver is here today, and thank you very much for coming. And if you want to sing, I won't talk. We're glad to have you here. Hillary and Chelsea and I came back here this year, drawn by the magnet of this magnificent place, reconnecting something that I think is in all of us, the yearning to have a bond with the nature that God has given us. Yellowstone, as all of you know, but as I think we should remind the country today, our first national park has our largest herd of elk and bison, more than 200 geysers, marvelous, pristine lakes and majestic mountains, places where we can teach our children about the power and the mysteries of nature. Yellowstone was entrusted into our care as a people, a whole people, more than 120 years ago now. And today we are saying to the rest of the world, to the rest of our country, and to future generations of America, we have been worthy of that trust, and we are giving it on to our children and our children's children. Again, I want to thank those who were part of the Yellowstone Dialogue. I want to thank Senator Baucus, who could not be here today, for his 5-point plan for maximum protection of the park before the proposed mine could go forward. I want to thank the members of my cabinet who are not here, including especially Secretary Babbitt and Secretary Glickman and EPA Administrator Browner and Attorney General Reno, because they all supported this as well, and I wish they could be here with us to celebrate this day. The agreement that has been reached with Crown Butte to terminate this project altogether proves that everyone can agree that Yellowstone is more precious than gold. That it's as has been said before, this is a victory for everyone involved. The American people and our future win because Yellowstone will be protected from the environmental hazards of mining. Crown Butte's shareholders win because their property rights will be protected. We are all protected from years and years of expensive and bitter litigation. And while there is still work to do, and work in which the members of the general public must and will be involved, we are going to move forward. And this signing today means that it will come out the way so many of you have worked for so many years. Mining jobs are good jobs, and mining is important to our national economy and to our national security. But we can't have mines everywhere, and mines that could threaten any national treasures like Yellowstone, that's too much to ask of the American people. The company has recognized this, and we thank them. Again, I want to emphasize, they are not only walking away from a gold mine, they have also agreed to finance the cleanup of historic mining pollution that predates their work at the site. That is a very important part of this agreement, and the company deserves a lot of credit for it, and we ought to appreciate what they're doing. Again, I want to thank Ian Beyer and Joe Bayless of Crown Butte for their extraordinary commitment. Let me thank the members of Congress again, those who are here, and Senator Baucus, who isn't, and also my senior senator and a great friend of Yellowstone and the nation's environment, Senator Dale Bumpers, who very much wanted to be with us today. I also want to say in closing that the way this was done should become a model for America's challenges, not only in the environment, but in other areas as well. When we deal with problems of national significance that have to be resolved by people who understand the particulars and who will be most affected by it, it will be well to remember how this was done. Yes, I did say that I wanted to preserve this park. And yes, I did put the Vice President and Katie McGinney and the cabinet on it. But the reason it worked, especially given the way the mining law works, as all of you know, is that we had a collaborative process that involved people reflecting all the interests involved who worked in good faith. That is the way we have to meet America's challenges as we move into this new century. We don't have to make a choice between the environment and the economy. We don't have to have every single challenge we face drag on forever and ever and ever into court suit after court suit after court suit, being fodder for politicians that campaign for rhetoric that divides us instead of unites us. All of you have proved that America can be better than that. This is a very, very great day for our country, not only because what we have done is right, but because of the way we have done it. That is right as well. When Yellowstone was created as the world's first national park over 120 years ago, it was as a result of a bipartisan agreement and a consensus which existed at that time that this place was too precious not to be preserved. God created the mountains of Yellowstone and the minerals beneath them, but it is up to us to preserve them. You have done that today, and you have done it in the right way. So I ask you today as you leave here to make sure that we all teach our children and grandchildren the lessons we have learned today, to make sure that future generations of our country never forget that we have something here we can never replace, but also never forget that when we meet each other across the lines that divide us in good faith, with honest, open hearts, and a real desire to move forward together, we can do it. We celebrate that today, and as your president, I am very grateful for every single one of you who played a role in this historic moment for America. Thank you, and God bless you all. Now, I can't forget the actual purpose for which we came. Katie, Mike, and Ian are going to sign the agreements.
You're right in our shot.